Fall 2019 has blessed upon us another orange-made anime. And while it isn't Land of the Lustrous Season 2, it's about another set of anthropomorphic characters. This time, Beastars. But thanks to a lot of comments I've seen about this anime like, oh, it's just for furries, and this anime is bad. It's just all CGI. It made me want to watch this anime and see why people think this way about it. But what I came away with is another opinion entirely from those last two I mentioned. So if you haven't, make sure to give this video a like and comment on your thoughts on Beastars and what I say in this video. It helps my channel out every bit of interaction you can give. Beastars follows our two main protagonists, Legoshi and Haru, and I realize Legoshi is like Legosi, but you know what I'm saying. Legoshi is a tall and massive wolf who, despite preconceived notion, is actually a calm, gentle, and relatively shy person. Haru, a white dwarf rabbit, is less than half the size of Legoshi and is constantly bullied and ridiculed by the other animals. One night, Legoshi can't help himself, and he hunts down the nearest animal, which is Haru, but after he is able to come to his senses, Haru escapes with a deep wound on her arm. In Cherryton Academy, animals of all sizes and races come together. And while there is distrust and unease between them all, Legoshi's life changes in unexpected ways. This is Beastars. So first off, nothing makes me more fucking angry, gotta make sure to show this content isn't made for kids, is the way this series has been treated and is rather disgusting to me. I've seen so many people, and as well have been told even more about, how people won't watch this show because of one scene, and because of that, this show is somehow meant for furries, and we shouldn't support shows like this or watch them. Immediately, I just want to say that's bullshit, and is extremely close-minded to a show that deserves none of that stupid criticism. Even then, you shouldn't be criticizing people for enjoying any kind of show for any kind of reason. And if anything, we should strive to be as open-minded to art as we can be. Because, lest we forget, anime is indeed art. And just because the meme right now is to hate furries, doesn't mean this show is made for such an incredibly small demographic anyways. So, if you are indeed one of those people watching right now, please keep an open mind. Just because a show has anthropomorphic characters doesn't mean it's immediately bad or stupid. If we went by that logic, anime, or any kind of art, shouldn't even exist. And who the fuck cares about furries anyways? Watch what you want to watch, for Christ's sake. So now that we got that out of the way, gotta make sure this is not kid friendly, let's actually talk about the most important part of, the show. Upon my first viewing of this series, I was immediately captivated by so many things. Of course, I am a massive fan of Land of the Lustrous, so when I found out Orange was making the anime version, I was excited. I wanted to see what they could do 2 years removed from quite possibly the best CGI anime of all time. And after episode 1, I was impressed to say the least. Of course, I still haven't made up my mind on that, as the series isn't anywhere near completed, but I was surprised. And what surprised me was the presentation and the story. In many ways, this felt so much like, and this will sound weird, but it felt like an anime noir at times. It was, of course, hints and bits, and never anything that hit you on the head. It was very subtle. But with the music and the atmosphere, the first episode really did have those subtle noir vibes to them. With how they set up the episode with Legoshi and at the end Haru, it was really captivating. Legoshi in particular is a character I am really enjoying right now. My favorite character of the series so far. Legoshi is a wolf, and in this world, wolves are often looked as a prideful animal who are at the top in terms of how they're viewed. But with Legoshi, he's rather shy and timid. It's a subversion of what we should expect of Legoshi, and because of that, we're able to really view this character from a different and more interesting point of view. It seems that what they're trying to do is simply break down this character and dive into each individual aspect of what makes him tick. It's fascinating because we look at Legoshi and we have these expectations, but in reality, he's different than most other characters. He's seemingly rejecting his own nature so that he does not stand out or do something that goes against his own morals. This is evident at the end of the first episode when Legoshi attacks Haru. He simply can't help himself, and no matter how hard he tries, he can't stop it. I wonder if at all they got inspirations from drug addicts or something like that, because they could totally tackle this aspect from the perspective of a drug addict. In that way, it would remind me of Sam Witwer's character in Being Human, who was a vampire that didn't want to drink blood. Which, by the way, if you don't know about that, definitely go watch Being Human, the US version. It's really good. I also wonder how he'll be able to cope with that side of him now that he's getting closer to the animal he tried to essentially eat, which is something they briefly did touch upon, as Legoshi makes a comment about such a thing. It's obvious they're going to be telling that story here, so I am very, very excited to see them do so. I think a big part of Legoshi's character is accepting who he is deep down and not trying to hide it, but embrace it, and thus, in turn, being able to keep that side of him in control. While this is an example of bad writing, Marvel's Avengers had that scene where Hulk said he kept it under control by staying angry. Something to that degree, of course, but actually making sense. And Legoshi always walking a fine line between a person who could snap and not is right now an interesting and compelling character. It makes him someone who could flip on a dime and really shake up the story quite a bit with something as simple as losing control and just trying to hurt an animal. But speaking of hurting an animal, Haru is our other protagonist in this anime, and she is probably my second favorite character out of everyone. She has this sort of underdog vibe to her, something straight out of the 80s that makes her the natural baby face in this anime, which, in many ways, she has the literal face to prove such a thing. She's a white dwarf rabbit, and she seems very innocent and peaceful, but as we see on the inside, she's a powder keg of emotion. This is what I love about Haru the most. It's the complexity of the way she looks and who she really is. In many ways, I feel like her story isn't that uncommon to those who are actually bullied. In one episode, she gives her reason for taking care of the plants and being the only one in her club. She believes that the plants need her, but most importantly, that she needs the plants. Besides being an obvious cry for help and attention, this is something that makes Haru a person you want to really get behind. We, the audience, see who she is, and we can relate and understand the position that she's in. She has a very, very real struggle she's dealing with. Being bullied is no fun, and through those struggles, we want to see Haru get strong, so that eventually she'll be able to stand up to her bullies and not let them get to her. This also goes into her first real interaction with Legoshi, which is a massive misunderstanding, but an important scene for both of our characters. On one hand, it will reaffirm that Legoshi isn't the kind of guy to do anything quite like what was happening in this scene, and not only that, this scene is actually rather comical in many ways for the way Legoshi reacts to Haru's advances. Instead of worrying about the situation and Haru in general, he's so caught up in just trying to say what he wants to say to her. Of course, I am talking about the scene where Legoshi and Haru misunderstands or misinterprets Legoshi as trying to have sex with her. And this scene is hilarious to me because he's so nervous that he's overthinking and trying to figure out a way to just say that he wants to talk with her more. He isn't trying to ask her out or anything. He's just trying to start a friendship with her. He's so innocent in that way compared to Haru. Her side in this interaction is somewhat on the darker side. Haru's first reaction is to just go along with it. Based off Legoshi's perceived reaction, she thinks he just wants to have sex with her. And since she's known around the school as this man-eater, a girl who just has sex with the other animals just because she can eat them up and spit them back out, she thinks that Legoshi maybe heard those rumors and wants, I guess, some action. In reality, it's not anything like that at all, and he actually hasn't even heard any of those rumors. So she gets as far as unbuttoning his shirt and pants, and from there, Legoshi kind of stops her advances. Haru is surprised by this, and I love this part of the scene. Haru asks why he's not helping her set the mood. Legoshi explains his intentions, and from there, Haru realizes what just happened. Legoshi then puts a towel around her and says to cover up, and she may get bitten by bugs, and leaves, but not before slamming the door on his tail, leaving Haru in an extremely confused state and the perfect thumbnail reaction, might I add. Also, gotta keep it, not made for kids. And I'm sorry, but this scene was comedic gold. That gave you a laugh, but also went into an aspect for both Legoshi and Haru's personalities. And once again, people who just wrote this anime off based off this one scene probably didn't pay attention and just decided this anime was shit because it had two animals trying to fuck. In reality, by the way, gotta keep this, not made for children. In reality, it was a funny scene. And not only was it funny, but it was deep. Not in that way, Chief, and shows that Haru and Legoshi are layered characters. I feel like this was one of the most human scenes in this whole series so far, which is funny because, it's about anthropomorphic animals. It tackled such an adult topic as sex, but also as well to have the innocence and charm to pull off comedy in the same scene that also, in a way, is a commentary about bullying. That's really fucking great, okay? And if you don't get that, and I'm sorry, but I and the people who gave it a shot really liked it. I just don't get it. If they were actually humans, people wouldn't even be giving a crap about this scene and likely praising it just as I'm doing right now. But, since it's anthropomorphic characters, it's suddenly a taboo, a sin, and we should oppress people because furries? Once again, remain open-minded. Look into things before writing it off as something, because this was an amazing scene, but some people just couldn't see that because they were blinded by a need to possibly just feel superior. Beastars has been a highlight of this season so far, and I am so interested to see where it heads. I didn't even get a chance to talk about Lewis, which if you want me to, please put down the comments if you want to see something like that. I can make a whole video about Lewis and some other side characters and stories as well. But I digress. Beastars is shaping up to be a hit, and I'm glad we were able to sit down and talk about Beastars and show that this series is really one of a kind. Of course, if you want more Beastars, well, next Monday I will be talking about another Beastars controversy, if you can even call it that, and that is the topic of CGI. You don't want to miss out on that, as I'm sure you'd be surprised at what this show was able to achieve with its visuals. If you haven't, give Beastars a shot. I promise you, if you go into this open-minded, you'll come out a believer. And if not, hey, maybe it just wasn't for you anyways, and that's alright, but you could at least say that you gave it a fair shot. So with that being said, make sure to give this video a like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Make sure to comment what your thoughts are on Beastars in general, and click on some of these videos if you find them interesting. Also know that on my Patreon page with the $1 tier and above, you can get access to literally everything. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.